All right, so I've got a few more examples to work through. So from number 7 here, I have one value that has a negative exponent. It's attached to the m, not the 3. The 3 has its own exponent of 1, which I don't see, but just the m has a negative exponent. So I'm going to move that down. So the 3 stays, the m to the third stays, but my m to the fourth now moves to the bottom. Since both of these m's are in the same side in the denominator, I add them together. So my answer will have 3 over m to the 7th. All right, number 8, I'm going to move all my values. I have negative exponents, I have coefficients, I have x's, I have y's, and I have z's. So these 3 items have negative exponents. The 2 and the 3 do not have negative exponents, so they're going to stay where they are. So I'm going to rewrite. I like to go ahead and write the ones that don't move first. So that's 2x to the fourth in the top, and then 3x squared z to the fourth in the bottom. Then this y to the fourth is negative on the top, so I move it to the bottom. So y to the positive fourth from the bottom. Then the z to the negative third on the top, so it'll be z to the positive third on the bottom. And then my y to the negative third on the bottom will move to y to the positive third on the top. Then I'm going to deal with everything as an individual. So the 2 and the 3 don't reduce. Sometimes the numbers reduce. Just like on the previous video where I could multiply. These don't reduce. I'm going to leave a 2 on top and a 3 on bottom. And I'll look at my x's. I have 4 on top and 2 on bottom. When I subtract that, I get 2. The top had more, so I'm going to leave my x squared in the top. Looking at my y's, I have 3 on top and 4 on bottom. So it's going to leave me with 1 y on the bottom. And then both of my z's are now in the denominator, so I'm going to go ahead and add those together. And z is to the 7th power. All right, for number 9, I altered the problem and added in some parentheses because you'll have some parentheses problems for your practice. Deal with your parentheses first, then move your negative exponents and all that fun stuff. So I'm just going to rewrite the numerator as it appears. 4x squared is the same as 4x times 4x. So that is going to be 16x squared. Please don't forget to square the coefficient along with the variable. So then I'm going to move my negative exponents, which is for the y. I'm going to go ahead and deal with this x to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So in my numerator, I have 4 times 1. Then I have that z to the third. In the denominator, I have 16x squared. And then that y is now to the positive second when I move it to the denominator. Now I can simplify. I can do my 4 times 1, which is just 4. But then I have 4 divided by 16, which I can reduce to 1 over 4. I only have one z variable, I only have one x variable, and I only have one y variable. All right, looking at number 10, I have a negative exponent, so I'm going to deal with this negative exponent. I'm going to rewrite my numerator. And then I'm going to distribute this negative 1 exponent to the 3 and the j and the k. So I have 3 to the negative first, j to the negative first, and k to the negative first. I find it helpful to deal with my parentheses first and then move on my negative exponents. So I have a whole lot of negative exponents that need to move. So my 2, h to the third, k to the fourth is going to stay. This j to the third is going to move to the bottom. This 3 to the first is going to move to the top. I ran out of room. My j to the first and my k to the first are going to move to the top. It's a little messy. All right, so looking at my coefficients, 3 to the first is just 3 times 2. So in my numerator, I have a coefficient of 6. Color. I only have one h, so there's nothing to combine with my h. So h to the third stays. Looking at my j's, I have 1 on top and 3 on bottom. So I subtract that, I get 2. I'm going to leave it on the bottom. And then my k's, I have 4 on top and 1 on top. So I'm going to end up with k to the 5th on top. All right, 2 more. I'm going to deal with my parenthesis here. So I'm going to leave my 4 and m to the 4th. Then I have n to the negative 3rd, p to the negative 3rd by distributing my negative 1 exponent by multiplying. Looking at my denominator, I'm going to keep everything the same. I'm going to move my negative exponents. So then my n to the 3rd moves to the denominator, and my p to the 3rd moves to the denominator. So dealing with my coefficients, 4 and 3, there's not much I can do with those. They don't reduce. So I'm going to leave my 4 on top, my 3 on bottom. Looking at my m's, I have 4 on top, 2 on bottom. When I subtract them, I'm going to get 2, and they'll stay on top. Looking at my n's, I'm going to add those together. N to the 5th is going to stay in the denominator. And then for my p's, I'm going to have p to the 7th in the denominator. All right, and then one more. I'm going to deal with my exponent of 2, so the 3 and the x and the y and the z. So I have 3 squared, x to the 6th, y to the negative 2nd, z to the negative 2nd, and keep the denominator the same. I'm going to go through and move all of my negative exponents. I can also deal with my 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So I'm going to have 3 squared, x to the 6th, my y to the 0 and z to the 0 are just going to be 1 times 1. And then my y squared, z squared would be in the bottom, and my x to the 4th will then be in the top. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3, or 3 squared, is 9. So I'm going to have a 9 in the numerator and put a 1 in the denominator. The 1 is not super important in the denominator, just kind of a nice placeholder. Looking at my x's, I'm going to add those together, x to the 10th in the numerator, and then y squared, z squared, nothing to combine in the denominator. So again, if you have a 1 as your coefficient, we don't need it. Kind of a personal preference. Please let me know if you have questions.